We'll now call Hopkins County Board of Education meeting. So I want to refer to this meeting as a meeting for informational purposes only pertaining to property located adjacent and behind the Surgoinsville Elementary School. And again, this is for informational purposes only. And I do now hereby call this meeting to order. I'd like to thank everyone for coming out. I'd like to welcome the Board of Mayor and Aldermen and Commissioner Alvis, Attorney Joe May. Thank you all for coming out. I want to establish some decorum for us in this meeting tonight. This is a meeting of the Board of Education, and usually we allow public discussion with an agenda item, but we're here for a specific reason tonight. So when you do have a question or want to make a comment, please raise your hand so we're not talking over everybody, and we'll move forward that way. Now, for the purpose we're here tonight is to discuss the house and the potential action of the property located at the Surgoinsville Elementary Middle School properties. Again, this is discussion, like our last meeting. It was discussion only, and to get both entities, the Board of Mayor and Aldermen from Surgoinsville and this Board of Education, up to speed, and we will speak of the facts of what has taken place, the research that has taken place, and get to what the most important thing is finding a reasonable solution that will hopefully work for both entities. I told Mayor Graham multiple times, my goal in this is to find a way to work together. So I want to thank you for coming out. The first thing that we need to do is establish a history of what has taken place since, I'm going to say, February, late February, early March. And Mr. Dixon, if you'd like to take it from that.
So our family resource location is failing. It's located in a modular building. For those of you that are aware, behind RMS, Rogersville Middle School, adjacent to Pathways Alternative School, there are two modulars there that were placed there when a portion of RMS burned in the 80s, and they were located there to serve as classrooms while part of the facility there at RMS was restructured following that fire. They're old. One is in far worse shape than the other. The other is still usable. It is used by our adult ed, and the current Family Resource Center modular is in dire need of repair. We have put roofing patches on it. We've replaced the stairs at least 2 times, I think, or portions of them since I've been here over the last 4.5 years. And it is extremely hard to get items up and down to parents and families that come to the location because of those steep stairs. So therefore, it's not ADA compliant. There's a number of things that we would have to do to bring that up to usability and long-term use. And we're not interested and/or don't think it's fiscally responsible to put any more money into that building. It's not something that has to be done tomorrow. That's why Chris pointed out that we've been looking at potential options since about February of this year. So about that time, we started to look for suitable non-school site locations, preferably in the center of the county. One of the reasons we would prefer not to have it at a school site is parents and families at risk and those that need resources are not likely to visit a school site and go through the check-in process, walk across campus or across the school site to go to a location for assistance. They prefer, and we prefer, to protect their confidentiality as much as we can and the needs that they bring with them. And having something located off the school site is, like I said, preferable. I started to inquire about the house located between Surgoinsville Elementary and Surgoinsville Middle. I asked Chairman Christian for history behind the building because obviously I don't have that history to rely on other than just paperwork that's in the office. Mr. Christian did some digging and reported back, and in the meantime, we were able to locate all agreements on record from 2006 onward regarding the house and storage building located on that same property. This turned up previous agreements with the Ruritan Club in the city of Surgoinsville. The documentation provided to you this afternoon that I handed out with the agenda shows the submission of the storage building. Well, I will hand that out if you don't have it. That's another set of documents. Those are the contracts that we did find with the city of Surgoinsville. That documentation shows the submission of the storage building to the Board of Education as well as an expired 2022 agreement with Surgoinsville for the use of the house. I did ask our attorney to look over the documentation to determine whether or not we had a path for utilizing the facility for the Family Resource Center purposes if needed, but no action has been taken by this board at this point. I brought the board up to speed on this at our special call meeting last week. This was listed as a discussion item and a discussion item only. The board has taken no action. A meeting to discuss the details of the house and the need for it was planned for tonight, July 6th. During the weekend, I was asked to attend a meeting with the mayor in Surgoinsville. The meeting was held on Monday morning at his office at 10:45. In attendance at that meeting was myself, Mayor Graham, and Chris Christian, board chairman, and I have handed out the notes for that meeting that I took at the meeting. I transcribed those from my handwritten notes that I took during the course of that meeting. And I think that brings us up to speed.
Okay. Do y'all have any questions? Now, I could add a little bit more history if you need it from my research, if anybody would like for me to go through that. About the history of the Ruritan, and who built what, and who's maintained what, and who gave up rights to the properties, to said properties. If not, we'll move forward. The meeting on Monday, I think Matt handed out some notes from that meeting.
I did.
Yeah, here it is. And if y'all would like to reference that. For transparency purposes, I contacted Mayor Graham in reference to, actually I called Mayor Graham, not about this house, but about some information that was in our last meeting that concerned me very deeply, because I have the utmost respect for Mayor Graham, and I have for the majority of my life, since I've known Murphy. And I was very conflicted on calling him about, and had to ask a question about some comments that were made. About me. Because I do not like conflict, especially with a man I duly respect. And that's why I called him up, was discuss that. During that discussion with the mayor, the house came up. And we were saying, we've got a meeting coming up on Thursday the 6th. And we discussed it, talked about what could and could not be done. And that's when a meeting with Matt, myself, and the mayor came up. I called Matt to see if he would meet with the mayor. I'd already told the mayor I would meet, so we scheduled a meeting for 10:45 on Monday. And it was a good meeting. A very good meeting. We outlined what we as a system would propose to this board to assist the town of Surgoinsville. And you can read here. And Mayor Graham, you see these notes. Would you disagree with any of that?
No, I haven't read them all, but no, it looks good to me.
It was a real good meeting. Mayor Graham had the suggestion after we made some proposals and I used the term spitballing, pitching out some ideas of how we could work together. And Mayor Graham had the idea, hey, let's do a walkthrough meeting, because Matt had said, hey, we could offer some space at one of the elementary schools. We can offer space for your file storage at the house, and your senior citizens could meet at the school, and we could do that in a long-term agreement through a facility use agreement, which is totally legal. We do facility uses constantly in this system for our facilities, and the walkthrough visit was going to be anybody that wanted to come could come. And it was agreed that we didn't need to have a meeting on this night. And then the walkthrough meeting was going to suffice, was going to move forward, and then the Board of Mayor and Aldermen of Surgoinsville would be familiar with what was going on. They would be invited to that walkthrough. If I'm not mistaken, Mayor, you were going to invite your people so they could see who's going to, any one of this board could go, and then come back and then make some decisions then, and everybody's on the same page. Yesterday, I received information that some folks were upset about misinformation. So I felt like, to be neighborly, as we work together, we're from Hawkins County, we're the same people. We need to communicate, so everybody knows we're moving in the same direction. This is not something that this board or Matt's administration has taken lightly. We've been working on this since, I'm going to say February. And in fact, this board has the right to do whatever it so chooses with that house. But just because the law gives this board that right, still doesn't make it right. That's why we're here. And I think everyone can agree with that. And if I may make a suggestion, we're not out to hurt anyone. You guys aren't out to hurt anyone. You're looking out for the best interest of your town. We're looking out for the best interest of the school system. We as elected officials have that obligation for the oath that we take. But trying to find that common ground takes communication. So I'd like to make a suggestion moving forward. Let's continue with the walkthrough next week. Let's see what kind of compromises we can make that would be suitable to the town of Surgoinsville and to the Hawkins County Board of Education. Other than that, I don't know what path we can go down if we don't continue with the plan that we have already established. But I'm open to suggestions, and this board will listen to I would like to hear from board members and get their suggestions, and then we'll move forward. We've been using the facility we've been using for quite some time. It is becoming very problematic. But in order to work together, I think we can slow down. We don't have to take any action tonight, August. We can come back after school starts, after we do a walkthrough, and then go from there. That would be my suggestion. And if no one really agrees with that, that's fine. We can agree to disagree, or you may have a better suggestion than what I'm putting before this group. So I'm going to be quiet now, and if anybody has any recommendations, the floor is open. Yes, sir, Mayor.
Yes. To start with, I want to say to your board that we are 100% behind this resource organization you have. The town is 100% behind you. We're glad you're doing it. And we understand too that the building belongs to the county. I'd like to refer to it as the little house. Most of us call it the little house. But yes, I talked with Chris, and I don't remember the date. He called me and told me that the school board was interested in using the little house. And he asked me what we did with the little house. And I told him that we used it for our senior breakfast. I told him we used it to store files, and we used it for a party room. We have another party room at City Hall downstairs, but it is not accessible by handicapped people. So that's why we needed to have a party room at the little house. Anyway, later I think I talked to Chris twice, and we discussed the little house. And then last week I was told that you were having a meeting on Friday, I think your meeting. And so anyway, you had your meeting, and again, we don't have any bad feelings or nothing about this situation. We know that the house belongs to the school board, we know that, and we want to resolve it, but all I want you to know is that we've put that building to good use, and we've taken care of it. And I would really like to go back and give the board a history of what's been going on in our town with the school board and the town of Surgoinsville. And I was employed by the town from 1972 to 1980 as police chief. And what I'm telling you goes back all the way back to that time. The town of Surgoinsville and the Hawkins County School Board have worked hand in hand, total cooperation. And it would be matters of mowing the grass here, playing ball on the field. We were able to build a swimming pool in Surgoinsville on school property. That eventually was shut down, but anyway, we did. The Ruritan used the little house to have their meetings and so on. There was a lot of use for that. And the Ruritan built a building down at the ball field, and that was used. It's still there. And anyway, at some point, with this cooperation that I'm talking about, and I would like the board to understand that, it's been total cooperation. There's never been a negative word, nothing between any of us, with the town and with the school board. It's really worked out good. And so anyway, we came into the building, the little house, and it was we was given an opportunity to take it, and we did, and we put it to good use. And but anyway, through the years, like I said, even during this time we've had the building, there have been other things go on. Again, like I said, I can't recall it all to you, but it's been this total cooperation. And I know at one time the roof, I asked you about the roof the other day. Yeah. I wasn't sure, but I did find out. The roof was a joint venture by the town and the medical board, and we did roof that building. And in fact, we've done other work there at the little house. We fixed the sidewalk, we fixed rails so it would be handicap accessible, and we've done other work. I can't recall or tell you everything we've done, but we worked on it, and we kept it up, and it's a good building. And then, anyway, you had your meeting last week. Then you called me Monday morning, and we had a meeting, and you got the minutes here. But I'm not sure if it's here, but I told you and I told Matt that I thought when this time would come, that I thought for us to give up the little house to the board, it would probably be for educational purposes. And I'm kind of disappointed that that's not the case here. But again, I don't want anybody to think we're not 100% behind this resource center, but because we are. So anyway, we have the meeting, and I'm told at the offset by Matt that it's a done deal. You're taking the building. So from that point on, you said you had no choice. You had to use the building. And you said that you had to get April couch closer to home, is what you told me. But there was a lot of conversation there.
Let me correct you, with all due respect, Mayor, we had a great meeting Monday.
We did.
We didn't talk about April couch in physical location to this facility. What I did say is that represents a centralized facility for the county. It has nothing to do with April's location. It has to do with the resources being in the center of the county. April's location did not even factor into that conversation. I'm sorry if that was misunderstood, but the notes are there in front of you.
That was my understanding.
I didn't mention April
that was
couch
said.
other than coming to the house visit when we said that.
Again, I feel like I heard that, and that's fine. We don't have a problem with that either. It's okay. We don't have a problem with it. But then, as we were leaving the meeting, or during this meeting, you said that we could use the commons area for parties. I think in maybe the elementary school, I think, and which I said that's a good idea. And if we're vacating the little house, then we need somewhere to have parties that's handicap accessible. And I said, sure, that's good. And then you said that we could also maybe have a senior breakfast there, I think. And you said that it would have to be brought in. We wouldn't have use of the kitchen or anything, which that stands for a reason. Anyway, and then you said we could still use the bedrooms in the little house for our files. And I said, that's good, that's very important, and so I like that. And so I'm discussing the rest of this meeting with the idea that we're out anyway, and we're gone from the little house. So I absolutely did welcome your suggestions, and if that's what we get to, I'm still very open to doing that. But then as we were leaving, you said to me, you know what, we may just have to give one bedroom to April. So that made a difference then in the use of the bedrooms, which we're using both. I think I told you that. We're using both. But anyway, what I want more than anything for the board to understand is down through the years it's been total cooperation with the school board. And I really thought, and this came to me after our meeting on Monday, I really thought to dislodge us, or whatever phrase you want to use, from the little house would be something more. I'm afraid to say anything because I don't want it to sound like I don't think the resource center is not that important. We've just been there, and whatever the location for this resource center is, we certainly hope it works out. But we're there. We're there already at the house, and we've got everything that we need to do what we do there, and it's there. And then if we need to move a building from Rogersville to use part of it or whatever, I appreciate the effort, and we may very well do that. It just seems to me like there's a lot of moving parts here for you all to take over the building. And again, we're not upset. I just simply want to get my point across. That, I've observed down through the years since 1972, the town of Surgoinsville and the board working in total cooperation, never one time any kind of a disagreement. We need this, we need that. We jump and do whatever we can do for the county. And now we've come to this.
Just to clarify, and I'll go on public record here, and I guess one of the things that can happen when you have a smaller meeting, not recorded, it's subject for interpretation. That's why I felt it important to take notes. But I'll go on record by stating again, like I said in the first statement, the board has not taken any action. We have not concluded anything because the only people that can do that is the 7 people that represents the board. So in the opening statement, and maybe I wasn't speaking loud enough or clearly enough, I said that if the board decides this is the only option, it does represent a good option for us, and the only one we know about at this point, because of the centralized location and the services it brings to students that have the most need. It's irregardless to me of where our employees live. If they're an employee of the system and that's their job, they need to report to where that job is located. So wherever we have a building or facility with those resources to accomplish that goal, that's where those employees need to report. And that's my feeling on the matter. April Couch is a very good employee. To her, it doesn't matter where this is located other than consideration for the families that she serves. Number two, I made it very clear, and you made it very clear, you opened with this statement, and that is that we've always had a workable relationship, and we both, Chris and I both supported that and said that we wish the same too. That's why the board has not taken action. We want to make sure that due diligence is done in this case, that history is served out, that we have a good understanding of what the building's used for, what your needs are moving forward, if that's our only option. And again, that word "if" was used multiple times because no action has been taken. The question came up, what you needed out of that building. If you were to vacate the building, what are your biggest needs? And you identified three, and you stated those: the file storage, the parties, and the weekly breakfast. And you stated at the time that the weekly breakfast was a little bit in flux and maybe reformatted or reorganized at some point because of some things going on. At that point, I asked you a question if you'd be interested in having the senior breakfast at a facility on the school side, if we could separate out a spot for you for the citizens, and then have them come in and read to the younger students. So there's an attempt, I think, no matter what happens with this building, there's an attempt to continue the cooperation that you've cited over history with the Board of Education and the BMA. And I don't speak for everybody up here. I'm their employee, but as far as I'm concerned, and everybody that works for me, we wish that to continue.
Oh, we do too. We definitely do. When we leave, whatever this board does, we'll vacate the little house and do whatever. But no, we want to totally cooperate. I'm just simply wanting the board to understand that down through the years, we've worked for each other and we've done things for each other. And now we're at a place that we're having to vacate a building. And of course, I think if you all were in our shoes, you probably wouldn't want to.
I agree. I think we agreed in that meeting as well.
Yes.
It's not. And I think I even made the statement, which may not be reflected in the notes, that if we don't take the other side's point of view on these situations, we're doing a disservice to the agreement, and we don't want to have that happen.
Definitely, like I said, we're 100% behind the Resource Center. We're 100% behind April Couch, and we wish her luck, and we hope it's a success. We sure do. I have to speak for the town. Sure. What we represent and what we want to do.
Thank you. So that goes back to, are you still interested in looking at options?
Well, absolutely. If we're out of the little house.
You're not out of anything.
Okay, well, I'm saying to you, yes, I'll be more than willing.
So
we're going to be needing those somewhere. I mean, that's just the way it is.
What I would like to propose, if the BMA wants to move forward with that, is we have offered the cafeteria at the Surgoinsville Elementary School for the two purposes that the mayor identified: the weekly breakfast. That may be in a separate room, depending on how many. You have to let me know how many typically come and what the needs are there, but we can probably look at options there. But the parties and the get-togethers are something we can work with, because you stated those typically happen after school hours and on the weekends. So those are things that we can accomplish pretty easily. The file storage, we may have another option as well if, and again, on record, if we are to move forward and utilize the house for the Board of Education purposes. There's another option for storage there on the facility in that warehouse that you mentioned at the front of your conversation, and that is the 2 offices that are in that warehouse that are both securable and would be provided to you all as the town for file storage as well. That may be more beneficial because they'd be in a secured, separated location from joint use if they're confidential or whatever the case is. That's another option we could look at inside that other building as well. So there are options. And what we wanted to do Monday, at least my take on the Monday meeting, was to discuss options so that we're not going into any decision, whether it's us or you all separately. It needs to be a joint decision if at all possible, and we need to benefit one another, like you have pointed out that the 2 entities have been able to do over history. And number 2, we want to make sure that we've accomplished what the needs are in both organizations, if at all possible. That was the due diligence piece before the board, I think, would even consider a decision on reutilizing that building.
Yes, and also you said for our walkthrough, you also needed for April to do a walkthrough the little house to see what she was going to need.
She hasn't been in there. I don't know if she's ever been in there or if she has. It's been a very long time, so I want her to see if it even would work for those purposes. And that was a point I wanted to make earlier, and I appreciate you bringing it up. That points back to the fact that I said this decision has not been made. Right now, it looks like the potential best option, but no decision has been made. We're not for sure taking the building. We're not for sure going to utilize it for that purpose. We wanted to have a discussion and let you know the purpose behind the need before we take any action whatsoever.
Okay, when we had our discussion, I wanted to make it clear with you, and I asked the question, so you're taking the building, and you said we don't have any choice.
I said, if we don't have any choice, I made it clear that the fact of that is what I just stated, and that was that April has not even looked at the inside of the house. The walkthrough provides a good opportunity for her to even see if that would work with the files staying inside, or if she says, no, we've got all that food, we've got all the hygiene products, all the products that we hand out that we need stored in the same location. She may very well say, if we're going to take the house, I really need the other 2 bedrooms. We need to work with you if that's the case, and that's our only option, to provide some place for cooperative file storage. But that goes back to that statement that I said, if this represents our only option. We have made no decision. The board, speaking for the board, they've made no decision on this. And I think that's the biggest piece of miscommunication that somehow occurred between Monday and yesterday. And again, I'm not pointing fingers at anybody, because I truly believe that a person-to-person conversation and getting all the facts on the table before making a decision is smart business and the right way to go about things. If we were to simply say, you know what, that agreement expired in 2022, I make a recommendation to the board and they were to take action, that would be irresponsible and callous. And that has not happened.
Well, I appreciate you saying that, because I did point that out to you and Chris both, that we didn't renew the lease. It expired, I think, in December of 22. And I said, and Chris agreed, you agreed. The neighbor thing to have done would have been to say, well, Mayor, you've not renewed this lease. You want to come down and sign another lease? Because we were extremely busy, and we've had a lot of things going on, and we missed that.
And I think I said in that same line of talk that I didn't even know about the expired lease until I pulled the paperwork up closer to May. That was before my time. When we started looking at the paperwork and prior agreements, that was determined to be expired. But at no point did any blame go back and forth. I think both parties in an agreement have an obligation to remind one another that their agreement is expiring, and if there's a continued need to enter into negotiations to extend or modify or continue that relationship. And I take on that responsibility as well, and we agreed that was shared.
I agree.
Mr. Dixon, I think some of the concerns of the people that I've talked to is why can't we, and I'd like for you to explain your thoughts on why we could not use Big Feeder's Bend as an alternative to this and how it's being utilized now. Tell us about that.
The Feeder's Bend is and has been used for some storage of these materials for the upper end and just overages that can't fit in the current location. So there's been times throughout the year that things have been stored there. April's had to transport them up here or have maintenance support her and bringing them up. The main concern in discussing that with April is the distance for students in the Bulls Gap, St. Clair, Mooresburg areas and getting down. A lot of them are living with family members who may not have cars or they don't have transportation themselves. She does deliver a lot to homes and to residences, but the majority of folks come to her seeking out that assistance. She has an office space now that she can sit down and work with those families and make phone calls and references to other service agencies that we partner with as a school system. She does use and has used a room there for those purposes and will continue to probably do so with the upper end students. This represents the bulk of where she would have her servicing, and a lot of what she has, probably 40-45% of her regular clientele are just from the Rogersville area alone. So if you consider the bulk of what she's now currently servicing and even moving it to Surgoinsville, that's going to be a little bit of an inconvenience for some of those families, but something that, because it's still relatively located in the center of the county, she feels she can work around.
And we do utilize Big Feeder's Bend for lots of
4
other
days a week.
purposes.
4 days a week. Hawkins County Virtual Academy has a teacher there that works with both pathway students and Hawkins County Virtual Academy students, meets with parents and students for tutoring, for class assignments, anything that they're having trouble with. She has appointments that she does, and she has an open door so they can pop in and out as needed. We also have professional development. We have utilized that almost every day for the first month of the summer, in training teachers and support staff down there in multiple rooms and in the big cafeteria, what used to be the cafeteria.
Thank you.
Yes.
Matt, could you explain what exactly the Family Resource Center is and what the benefit would be for it to be moved to Surgoinsville when you just stated that 40 to 45% of the usage is in Rogersville?
So when I say Rogersville, that's the unincorporated areas too, and as you know,
Right.
the unincorporated areas of Rogersville border on Surgoinsville. My own home is in that same vicinity, so and that's a great question. I shouldn't assume people know, but it's a great question. What the Family Resource does is supplies resources, logistical resources for our families in need. Anything from clothing, basic school supplies, notebooks, pencils, sharpeners, erasers, anything that they may need in addition to what the school provides for use at home, for example. Hygiene products. We've even put in or purchased water heaters for families that have no hot water. We can utilize some of those funds on an emergency basis for some of those types of things.
So in terms of a physical location, is it like an office with a storage?
It's an office, and then it has a supply closet that's organized by products. So it's kind of like a little store without the pricing.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I guess then my question for me, I mean, I have no reasoning why it shouldn't be located in Surgoinsville, but my question then would be, do you think that most of that 40 to 45% is in that unincorporated part, or do you feel more of that is in the city? Because I'm thinking when you're talking about Bulls Gap, St. Clair, these further areas, that's going to be quite a pain getting over to the elementary and middle school.
One of the things that she does with those that travel the furthest and or have transportation issues is she will either meet them at a centralized facility or meet them at their home if that's a possibility, as long as they have the ability to call her. What happens now is there's a lot of people that just drop in knowing that that's where she's located and knowing what she has on site, and it may be a spur of the moment need, so it greatly varies. The 40 to 45% simply refers to anybody in the unincorporated Rogersville area that may utilize the supplies and the needs at this current time.
Okay, I had another question too.
Sure.
On here, in your notes, you had mentioned that a lot of parents don't want to go onto the school property. If I understood in the beginning of the meeting, the current resource center is located on school property currently?
It's on a school property, but they don't have to go through a school office.
So, okay, so that's why the little
Yeah.
house report.
Yeah,
Understood.
it's a great question.
Please, let Matt finish the explanation again, please.
One of the reasons is we have a visitor background information system at every school site, and so if we had it in the classroom, so the mayor had asked, can you find an empty classroom at one of your school sites to utilize for those purposes? If we did that and you were a parent in need and you came, you would have to check in with the office. You'd have to go through the Raptor security check, and then you'd have to be escorted back to that classroom with or without your student. And that's what
Right.
that's the kind of marching in front of people that are seeking assistance don't care for, and we don't want to put them in that position.
But to use the little house, they wouldn't have to have any sort of checkpoint, even though it is on school
No,
grounds?
what she typically does is she will meet them at the door remains locked. She has typically, most of them call ahead of time and say, can I come and get these resources? She sets up a time to meet them so she knows when they're coming, but even the drop-ins, she makes sure that that's a safe engagement there, that other people are around. She has an office assistant as well, and then that's done there at the office.
Okay, yeah, I had just read that and needed a little bit of clarification on that.
That was due to the mayor's good question of why can't it be housed at a school site? And I even asked April point blank. We've got a handful of classrooms that we could probably squeeze out for temporary use, even if we had to move you year to year. Would that work? And those are the reasons that she cited. And it does make sense if you think about it.
Yeah, it does, thank you.
We good? So, yes.
I'm going to express some concerns. A little history too, because I've been involved in most of this, either on this side or sitting where Chris is sitting now. Years and years ago, Board of Education approached the Ruitan wanting a maintenance shop. Your husband was maintenance supervisor at the time, before we bought the property down here, wanting a swap. Because us as a Board of Education wanted that property to house our maintenance shop. So here the town, some of the town's funds, the Ruitan funds, medical board funds, and all that went into building the storage facility behind the ball fields. We walked away from that and went to the house for the Board of Education. Now here years later, gentleman's agreement, I know it's on paper. Y'all have every right to exercise control. Go ahead.
I did get to that too in my research. There's no documentation of it other than the Ruitan disbanded. But what we did, we contacted the former board secretary, Ms. Mays, Lois Mays, and she put me in contact with Lynn Norris. Lynn Norris, a 25-year employee of Hawkins County Schools, a Surgoinsville native, and was a member of the Ruitan.
I was too.
Okay. So, the narrative that I got from Lynn Norris and him speaking with Ms. Mays of who owned what and who did what was reported to me that the Ruitan built the garage back when they were doing the tractor pulls and the horse shows and of that nature. Then they quit doing that, so they wanted to use the house. So they traded the garage. I wasn't around then either, so I'm going on what he is telling me. So they traded the garage to the school system, where he said, here, you can use it, we don't need it anymore, and you let us use the house. That's the way it was explained to me. Then the Ruatan disbanded and walked away from everything, and I did ask the question to Mr. Norris, and I don't want, he's not here to defend himself. I shouldn't even be using his name, but I have to put a name to the narrative. So I apologize beforehand if Mr. Norris is upset with me, but I said this, to the best of your memory, does the town of Surgoinsville have or ever had any rights to these buildings? And he said, no, it was all the Ruatan.
Wait a minute.
I'm not here to debate that. I'm just telling you the narrative.
Let me tell you how that happened. After our membership got so low, and we made the trade-off, myself and Johnny Greer, and I don't remember who else, came before this board and asked, would this board take that agreement to the town of Surgoinsville? So that's how it came about.
Which agreement?
The second agreement that I signed as board chairman, this board, the Board of Education, gave everything over to the town of Surgoinsville for them to exercise, because Ruatan was relinquishing everything they had folded, so we then gave it to the town of Surgoinsville then to exercise that lease. Now that first lease was not due up till 2038, I believe, 2030 something, 2031. So for all the money that they had put in to that, we gave them a contract till 2031. That, but now here we are in 2023, and
You're saying 2031?
yeah, it says August.
That was the 1973 agreement. It's referred to on page 1.
Yeah, page 1.
Page 1. Let me see that. I'm seeing the 2006 lease agreement. Okay.
It's the agreement dated August 31st,
That's the
2006.
lease.
Yeah.
No, he's talking about an agreement between the school system and Surgoinsville.
Oh.
Are you Randy, are you referring to the Hawkins County Board of Education and
The one where
Surgoinsville
Robert
Rotary Club and
Robert
Surgoinsville?
Stidham was the chairman at the time. Me and Perry Dykes was on the board at the time.
That's this one. That's the 30.
Yeah, that's this one here.
This is his lease, the lease.
And that was to allow them all the money they put in. That way we wouldn't do exactly what we're doing
So
here
it
now.
was an acknowledgement of the money that was utilized on that facility to be executed over a number of years for that agreement. Okay. All right.
And in politics, there's three things that you don't mess with. You don't mess with children, the elderly, nor the veterans.
Right.
And here we've got two button heads to the children and the elderly.
I don't think we need to be butting heads, and I think we agree to that.
But I'm just trying to, as a town board member, and so many funds, the medical board, the Ruatan, and the town, there was funds all pulled together there to accomplish all this. I just don't want to see the town lose out.
Right.
And speaking of being neighborly, and it's been mentioned several times here being neighborly, we've had issues with the water problem up there. And I know it ain't on the agenda and everything, but we were neighborly and we've been trying to work with you all on that. And we've been real neighborly by not pursuing the issue that has been acknowledged in private conversations. And if we're willing to work with y'all, and I've been on the board for 3 years, this board, for 3 years, and we've not took any action whatsoever, but then here, all of a sudden, from February till today's date, boom, we've got a solution to get us out of the house, and that I have issues with.
And I think you hit the nail on the head there, because there's been no action, because there's been discussion, I think the threat of that action taking place has driven a lot of this angst on either side. And I don't think we need to be there because, like I said earlier, and it's on record, this is being recorded, it's in front of you all and in front of the board, I'm saying this, no one's taken action, nor have I recommended we take action to the board. What we're doing is having a discussion, and what we hear, what I hear, and I'm going to speak for myself, what I hear is that there are ongoing concerns with this moving forward. We either have to figure out a way to mutually address those concerns or go to plan B. And I think that that's where we're at. Now, regarding the water, since you brought it up, on record, we've flooded all drains, we've smoke tested all lines, we've run cameras up the main trunk lines and the feeder lines. We have paid the town's engineers to come out and help us identify, which they could not. We've inspected all crawl spaces and identified any sump pumps that may not be pumping correctly that may be helping with the infiltration if it's occurring on our school property. We've placed risers on all manholes that were near or below ground level. And beginning next week, the final phase of a sewer line that has not been replaced from toilet to sewer will be replaced with Roto-Rooter working it now that summer school's done. And at that point, I don't know what else we can do. And that's where we're going to have to discuss what other options are left, because at that point, we've gone from A to Z to kind of check that out. So just to clarify your conversation, we've done what we've had to try to do also to try to identify on our part where that could be coming from.
I appreciate you updating me, but that's not the conversation that we had in my office 3 or 4 weeks ago. You said that they had found the problem, Roto-Rooter had found the problem that Shannon Glass had overlooked.
Yeah, it's under, and we're gonna fix that. We've explained that to Merle Graham multiple times, and you might be mistaken, or I may have misspoke, but yes, there is a line under the school that Roto-Rooter found the second time in there, and we're waiting for summer school to finish up, and it's finished up, and we're going in to rectify that.
Which would have created the problem.
We don't know.
If that's where it's coming, that's the last, just to, based on what I know from talking with Shannon and the plumbers we've had on site, is that's the last. There's a set of toilet, sink, bathrooms in that far wing of the closest to the playground of the elementary school, and underneath that there's one large sewer line that feeds all those toilets, all those sinks, and that's the last line that we have yet to replace from toilet to tap. So.
I didn't mean to bring up the water issue. Here in the bottom line is all the money that's been invested by the town in that property, even if it's keeping it up. And y'all have every right to execute on the contract, take it back, because we failed to renegotiate the lease. But I don't want to see the town walk away with nothing. Putting all that time and all that money in and walk away with nothing.
Yeah. I think we're on the same page. We don't want that either, and that's why we wanted to meet with Mayor Graham to identify what the needs are if big word if we were to execute this and take it and utilize it because there's no other options. That's an if. What does the town need? What can we assist with? Because we do know that it's being used. And if it weren't being used, we wouldn't have to have this discussion because it wouldn't be a hardship to the town. But there is some hardship there, and we do realize that. That's what we wanted to get detailed out in that conversation. At least that's how I approached it when I got the call the meeting was taking place. My main goal was to figure out what we could maybe work on mutually to accomplish for the town.
You all have more access to things than we do. We're limited in what we have, and I just ask the board to work with us.
Sure. What I was going to say, Bill, is that it has been discussed that if this board were to so choose to utilize the house, any modifications, any maintenance, any expenses incurred by the town of Surgoinsville would be reimbursed by this board with board approval. I don't know what else we could do. I really don't. We're talking about cooperation. Seems like to me, and we could talk about this all day. Here's what we need to do. We need to do the walkthrough. Get everybody up to speed. What options are out there available to the senior citizens of the city of Surgoinsville? What needs to happen? Will the house fulfill our needs? We don't know that yet. So there's a lot of things that we still don't know. We need to do this walkthrough. And I don't care if the whole community comes, we'll send a bus up there to carry people around if we have to. If everybody wants to see it, so everybody knows exactly what page everybody is on. And as far as the document, Randy, I'd have to look at it a little closer, but it's dated to August 30th, 2023, but it's got the Surgoinsville Realty Association, not the city of Surgoinsville, but we can talk about that at a later time. So, to finish this meeting up, if nobody else has anything else, we will continue with the walkthrough. And that has been set for, Matt, is that in your notes?
No, April's getting back to me on the date
Okay.
that she can be there, and if that works for mayor and alderman, then we'll set it. If not, we'll come up with an alternate.
But I'd like for you and your staff to work through Mayor Graham and his staff in setting the date and getting that advertised.
I would like to say one other thing to us, if I can. Randy brought up the sewer, and my point that I wanted to make about the town and the school board cooperating with each other. When the sewer was brought to the school, the town worked hard, applied for and obtained a grant, $5 million grant. The purpose for that grant was to take the sewer line from Phipps Bend to the schools. That was the reason for the grant. And your package plants, I would say, were failing, but I think probably had already failed. There was a big problem, and so you needed the sewer, and we was cooperating, but until this day, what's happened with infiltration and so on, we've worked with you all, and we to try to get something done, but we haven't really taken anything or put you in jeopardy of losing anything. So all I want the board to understand is we've been cooperative as we can be with the school board, and the school board has been with us.
I agree.
And so
On that aspect of it, I can agree. So, Mayor Graham, is that acceptable for Matt and his office to work with you to schedule the date and time for the walkthroughs? Board, do you have any concern about doing the walkthroughs? Anything else before this pertaining to the house on the Surgoinsville Middle School Elementary property? If not, we're adjourned. Any? We're adjourned. Thank you.